Good evening. Welcome to the Southampton Town Conservation Board meeting of January 28th, 2026. I would invite all to rise for the salute to the flag.
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
What is your pleasure on the minutes of January 14th, 2026?
Move to accept.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A021076, Nicholas Christopher and Penelope Christopher. And this hearing needs to be renoticed. What's happened here is that they want to do a major change from what they had submitted prior to now. And that is sufficiently different and is it sufficient public interest to warrant renoticing. So there will be
You need a motion on this, Kelly?
Yes.
yes, we're gonna need a motion to renotice.
Motion to renotice for March 25th.
Second?
Let's see,
There's a resolution in the packet.
there it is. Had to be there somewhere. Resolve that the notice of such hearing be, not that one. One before that.
Thank you.
Resolve that the Town Conservation Board hereby reschedules the public hearing for March 25th, 2026. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye. Oh, no. I voted aye and twice. My vote was intended to be an aye.
Aye and me.
Yes.
A025041, Bruce Nierenberg.
This is a new public hearing. We do have the affidavits of posting and mailing in compliance with the town code. The board does have jurisdiction to open the hearing.
Two in a staff sketch I should be finding in here as well.
No. Just an advisory. Just hang on one second with that.
So he's gonna present it, we'll ask questions.
Just wait a second. Yeah, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Aram Tertunian, First Coastal, West Hampton Beach, New York, with Kyle Hubbard, also from West Hampton, representing the applicant. I have some exhibits. Would you prefer I pin them on the wall or handing them up on poster boards?
They don't fit in the folder too well, let's put them on the wall.
Okay, so Kyle's going to take care of that while I start talking. So we're here this evening to discuss the replacing an existing bulkhead at the residence at 67 Clearview Drive. And I think the salient issue is the, pull them off there. The salient issue is the desire of the applicant to raise the bulkhead by 18 inches. Mr. Shea has written a report for you where he went through his reasons why, and I'm going to explain to you. I've given you a letter, which I believe you have in your file.
The report shows why it should be raised 18 inches or why it should not be raised.
Well, it should be raised 18 inches. We sent you a letter report. No,
Marty's-
Marty says no, mine says yes.
Okay,
So we sent that to you. It should be in your file. I don't recall the date. I'm trying to find the.
it was a while ago.
And this is January 28th, and then there's a, no, that's just,
Oh, another report,
Submittal was today.
okay. Do you have a copy of it?
I didn't see it. I saw an
That's the only
email
copy I
today.
sent.
Okay.
We did send an email today, but there was, prior to that, we had forwarded you a letter, which I'm looking for a copy of, which went into,
I read something in December about this.
yeah.
Can you clarify, was that a formal submittal in December?
Yeah.
Because I don't recall getting the same letter and referenced exhibits in December. I only saw that we.
November
received
21st, here we go.
at 1 o'clock today.
November 21st?
So that was made as a formal submittal to
Yeah.
Rita,
Yeah, went to everybody.
and that's same document as,
It's not the same, but it contains, the document I forwarded yesterday is a restatement of much of the things that are in here with some references. There's no departure from.
the document that you're saying you submitted in November. Reference the same 12 or so on exhibits?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, here's the document.
Okay, so the submittal today is a supplement
Yes.
to a prior.
Yeah, this is the letter that we submitted.
Okay, but it did reference, so this is an updated reference and a host of documents.
In the most recent submittal, what we did was give links to the various codes, like the residential building code, which only changed on December 31st, and the New York State sea level rise code, which was also amended very recently. So it's the same information, it's just updating, links to update those codes. Okay, looks like we're there. So am I to assume nobody has this November 21st letter?
Do you have it?
Yeah.
I don't recall a November letter. You sent it to us directly?
I sent it to Chairman with a copy to Marty and Karina.
January 28th?
No,
That's a
November
separate
21st.
communication.
Then it's December 12th, and the next letter before that is August 14th, so I don't have anything.
Did you read this? Did you guys read it?
I can't read it that quickly.
Could you speed it up a little?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Letter on your letterhead besides today, that one and August 14th.
Letter specific to this property? Or did it speak of several applications?
Speaks to several applications, but it was submitted for this property.
That may be,
That may be the issue.
that may be the issue. So maybe you could speak to that prior letter since it's not part of the record set
Right.
before us tonight.
And I will review this letter and obviously provide you with digital and hard copies
All right, thank you.
for your files.
Thank you.
So, why do we need to raise the bulkhead 18 inches? Is it a good idea or a bad idea? It's a good idea, and it's a good idea for some very simple reasons. Number one, the existing bulkhead is failing due to overtopping. That overtopping is occurring because of sea level rise and because the bulkheads are 30 years old. So even if, putting aside accelerated sea level rise has been rising at a foot per century for the last 18,000 years. So these bulkheads are a third of a century old. They've got a third of a foot of increase in sea level rise. That accompanied with periodic storms that we have is overtopping. It's wiping out the material here. You can see this is a well-constructed bulkhead. It's got the filter cloth behind it. It's not like it's leaking through it. The waves are coming over the top and scooping it out. So that's what's happening. That's what's happening on the site. And the reason it's happening is because the bulkhead is too low. So
How high is that bulkhead?
it's at +7.
I'm sorry, can I just clarify, because I'm going to get very lost. And I read the preliminary report, which you presumably read.
Yes.
The bulkhead replacement Marty wrote was acceptable, the issue was the groins. As a non-engineer, I'm wondering whether what you're talking about right now relates to this groins issue.
It does not. It relates merely to the height of the bulkhead.
There's two aspects to this, if I can intercede. One is they want to replace the bulkhead and increase its height 18 inches. The second is they want to replace the groins. But Alan right now is talking about the bulkhead. We should probably break this down into two parts of the conversation.
Is the report,
They may not be directly related, although you want to do the work all together.
Well, that would be the most efficient.
and do we have a disagreement, Marty, on the raising of the height, or is it just the groins that staff is concerned about?
No, I had questioned the potential impact of heightening the groin. I questioned whether or not it's necessary. That's the reason for the hearing, for the applicant to speak to that. And also, I had requested an analysis of the potential wetland and environmental impacts of groin replacement, so.
So well, let's let
I
our.
apologize for the question, I just was on the groins, so.
Don't apologize. Let him go through this, and Marty will give his perspective on it, and we'll have an opportunity to ask questions.
And just quickly, as indicated by the letter of today received from the applicant, there are many exhibits that have been referenced that that my office will need the time to review. So the intent of the hearing tonight is primarily for the applicant to give his presentation. I will be requesting that the hearing be adjourned in order to provide my office and the board with sufficient opportunity not only to consider further any testimony on part of the applicant, but also to look at the 12 exhibits that were cited.
Understood, but now I do understand what we're talking about, so thank you.
Good, I like being on the same page. So, basically Marty raised two concerns about elevating the bulkhead. The first one was reflection of wave energy would be increased, and the second one was that floodwaters would be diverted. I think those are the two primary concerns that were raised in his memo. So what I'm going to talk about this evening are, number one, what's the need? Why do we need to do this? I'm going to talk about what's the policy of other jurisdictions on this and why have they arrived at that policy? What are the regulations that control their policy? And what are the practical implications of sea level rise on this property and why those all support raising this 18 inches. So the need here, I think I'm demonstrating that we do have overtopping. It's not as if the bulkhead is failing. It needs to be replaced, but it's overtopping that's causing the problem. Over here,
Can I ask a question there? I'm looking at that picture. There's two things I don't understand. One is, it looks like right in the center of that picture is a rod, a dead man, going landward. And now just 2 inches left of where your finger is. Well, that was down. Go up a little bit, back a little bit. Looks like a sheer something there. What is?
that's an old wall.
Okay. And where is that soil moving to, since it's vacating the spot right behind the bulkhead?
Yeah, it's going out this way, and hard to see through here, but there's also soil exiting this way on the neighboring property.
Did you get a chance to see any of the neighboring properties? Because I think there's more than one
Yeah,
application involving this.
right. They're all suffering similar,
That's what you anticipated me, okay.
yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, what we do when we look at this is, all right, we divide storms into their return periods, 10-year, 50-year, 100-year. A 10-year storm is supposed to occur once every 10 years, and storms are rated by the surge level of the water, and also by the waves, but surge level is one of the components. So what I did was, I said, I went to the FEMA studies, the flood insurance study for Suffolk County, for Southampton, and the 10-year storm level is a flood level of 4 feet. And it's 4 feet above this NAVD 88 datum. I think you all are familiar with the datums. It keeps everything at a constant 0, so it's not sea level, which changes from the Peconics to the Mauritius. It's a constant 0. And what I did was I took, this graph is from 2021 to 2026. This is the United States Geological Survey tide gauge on Shelter Island Sound. And I plotted this 4-foot elevation, which is the 10-year storm elevation. And as you can see, there are multiple over this 5-year period of time. There's a lot more than 1 or 2. This is a frequent event that's occurring. So then what I did was I said, New York State has adopted under Part 490 of the New York State Code of Rules and Regulations sea level rise projections for Long Island, which they have codified, and they require their state agencies to take those sea level rise projections into consideration when they make decisions. And they're in this great November letter that you didn't get. But for, so they're for the 2030s, the 2050s, and the 2080s, and they're divided into low, medium, and high projections. So what I did was I plotted the low, the medium, and the high projection for 2030s, 2050s, 2080s. So you can see this is the low, this is the medium, this is the high. I figured I'd make it like a stoplight, except for it's reversed. So this is the height of the current bulkhead, and this is the height that we're proposing. Okay? So with a 10-year storm, which is the 4-foot elevation of water, this existing bulkhead is going to be it's going to continue to be overtopped routinely, even on the low projection. On the middle projection, which is the one I tend to favor, this bulkhead, the height of the bulkhead will be good until probably 2080 or just before that. And under the high projection, it's almost in the same situation now as the existing bulkhead, even if you elevate it.
You just said 2080,
Yeah, 2080s, right?
20 what?
80s, yeah. So this is 2030s, so a few years from now. This is 2050s, this is 2080s. So raising this bulkhead 18 inches provides several decades of protection under sea level rise with a 10-year storm. So,
If the projections are accurate.
they're codified, and the other agencies are required, and the state agencies are required to follow them. So what has New York State done as a result of this? New York State has issued a general permit for replacement of existing bulkheads where the replacement height shall be no more than 18 inches higher than the height of the existing bulkhead to the locally designated Federal Emergency Management Agency flood elevation, or up to an elevation determined using the applicable DEC Community Risk and Resiliency Act guidance where justified. The sea level rise projections come from the Community Risk and Resiliency Act. So they have issued a general permit anywhere in Nassau and Suffolk County. If you're going to replace a bulkhead in the same place, you can automatically raise it 18 inches. Now, there's another state agency and a federal agency that also regulate the same activity, the New York State Department of State Coastal Management and the United States Army Corps of Engineers. They have adopted the identical policy. And so when we apply to these agencies, this is an automatic, because they've done this research. Locally, at the trustees, we've been having this discussion for a number of years. In the very recent past, they have begun to approve more routinely an 18-inch or a 12-inch high, depending on certain circumstances. But I can tell you from personal experience, the Southampton Town trustees are in the process of rebuilding the dock at the end of Shore Road in Remsenburg, which is a trustee-owned dock, and it's going up 18 inches on their project, on their property. So I think that you have a very consistent record of what the need is to do it, what the policy is of all these different agencies, including our local town trustees, in approving this increase in elevation. So I'll speak to Marty's two concerns, which are increased wave reflection and deflection, pushing the water onto somebody else's property, basically. Well, here's the situation. There's nothing, raising it 18 inches on a bulkhead that is 7 feet high and has about an 8 to 9 foot exposed face at low tide is not going to materially increase the reflection off that wall. And there's really nothing in front of here for it to impact. There's no intertidal marsh, there's no sandy beach. This is water basically through all stages of the tide. So there, you have a question?
Yes. The other bulkheads, are they in line with your bulkhead as far as how far out they are?
Mostly. There's a few jogs.
Okay, this is maybe, it sound like an ignorant question, but not for me. If that bulkhead that exists now were back at where the other bulkhead is, okay, would there be that much erosion, do you think? I know I'm putting you on the spot, Aaron.
No, there definitely would be, because this is a height issue, not a horizontal, it's a vertical issue, not a horizontal issue.
Well, I'm thinking the waves might not crash as high if the bulkhead was moved in a little.
If there was a beach in front of here where the waves could dissipate, I could understand how there could be some impact, but there's no beach. There's no beach here for the waves to break on, to run up, and to dissipate energy. This is water right up to the face of the bulkhead. So, my opinion is that whatever reflection it has today is the same one it's going to have tomorrow, and the impacts are going to be the same. There's no substantial change in the reflection as a result of raising it 18 inches.
I know you said when that bulkhead was built, but I don't remember it.
It's about 30 years old, right?
No, which one, the front one or the back one?
Front.
Oh, the front one was 32 years old.
I'll speak for Mr. Wilson Madden, who's the neighbor. He informs me the bulkhead is 32 years old.
Probably you had some beach at that time, right?
Possibly. 32.
Well,
No.
okay.
Stifle yourself.
To say, he'll tell you every weather pattern ever. Thank you all for stopping him.
I know. Believe me, I know.
The second concern that Marty raised is that this will, deflect the stormwaters onto somebody else's property. And I would say, is that possible? Yeah. Is it a high probability? No, in general. I'm talking in general terms. In specific terms, on this property, it's not even a concern, because every single person here is suffering this condition. And every single person here wants to do the exact same thing. And you have coming up in your public hearings, 51 Clearview, 59 Clearview, 65 Clearview, 67 Clearview, 23 Bittersweet Lane. They're all the same. And everybody else along this stretch is going to have to do the same thing to protect themselves. Otherwise, this is what's going to happen. Not allowing the 18 inches means that you're telling them they have to suffer this, which is going to cause this entire structure to fail. Bulkheads fail two ways: overtopping, which is happening here, or undermining. This bulkhead's not being undermined. For 32 years, it's in gorgeous shape, but it's got to be replaced. It's at the end of its useful life, and in that replacement process, it needs to be elevated.
If you were to elevate this 18 inches, are you suggesting by that chart that if the median sea level rise predicted by New York State occurs, then that should be sufficient to carry it till the 19 or the 2080s?
Yeah, I don't think we get all that way, but I think we get past the 50s. I think we get another 30 years. Which is, that's a great planning horizon for investing
Well-
and mortgages.
If you know what year it is, 30 years doesn't get us past the 50s.
It gets us right in there. Right in, almost in the middle of the 50s.
Yeah. So I'm trying to calculate, if we give you what you want, when are you going to come back again?
In 30 years.
None of us.
Some of us will probably still be here.
You for sure.
No, he's older than me.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing about these materials, these PVC sheet pile, which is what we use now, has a manufacturer's life of 50 years. So there's a distinct possibility it's going to go past that 30-year horizon.
Do you know, where is the sea level now? You have ways of determining that, right? You were explaining that. So what number would you give the sea level right now? This is all published data.
Yeah, so give me a moment to look at our drawing. So sea level's a funny thing because it's so different from site to site. We use a program published by NOAA called VDatum, and that allows us to online calculate what mean high water is and mean low water is and mean sea level is at any given location in the United States. So I do not think that I did that on this particular site. So I,
Don't need to go there right now.
no, it's right here. It's right in front of us. Here we go. This line here is mean higher high water. So we're looking at mean high water or mean higher high water, and that line is pretty buried in here, but it's right here. Yeah, it's right here. It's about, 1 point something feet. So again, we use a datum called North American Vertical Datum of 1988. This is a synthetic zero that's the same everywhere in the United States. So no matter where you are, whether it's in the Peconics, the Mauritius, or Arizona, that zero is the same elevation. And we measure everything else off of that elevation. So high tide is above it, in this case, about 1.1 feet or something like 1.2 or 3 feet. And low tide is below it. In this case, I think it's like 0.8 or 0.9 feet below it. So when you look at a FEMA map, and the FEMA map says your elevation is +7, AE7, that means you're 7 feet above this synthetic zero. When you ask what the top of the bulkhead is, and I tell you the bulkhead is 7 feet, it's above that zero. That way you have a constant frame of reference across every measurement. It's not sea level, it's zero. I have a hard time getting that point across. Is that clear?
Yeah, we need a reference point,
And it is the reference point.
yeah.
So you're saying that sea level is around 1 point, what'd you say?
Well, mean high water is around 1 point something, 1
That's
point.
mean high water.
Yeah. Mean sea level?
Yeah,
It's,
1 point,
no, it's lower than that. It's like point something, like 0.4, 0.5. I'll look it up and send it to you. And then VDatum is great, tells you all that stuff. Calculates it for you instantly. I used to have to write to Washington, I was telling somebody this story, not to Washington, Silver Springs, Maryland, and ask for the tidal datum at each and every spot, and they would send me back a handwritten form. That's how long ago, that's how long I've been doing this.
I'm gonna have some other questions later, but I want to hear Marty's response.
Thank you for your time.
Good evening, Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. I will be brief tonight. As was alluded to, there is a preliminary advisory report on file dated December 17, 2025. As indicated prior to the applicant's testimony, as the applicant's letter of January 28, which was received at 1 o'clock, references 12 exhibits, many of which are probably 100 pages or more in length. My office will need additional time in order to review the referenced documents and provide further feedback on this application. As indicated by my advisory report, and as was mentioned by the chair, the applicant is also seeking approval from this board to reconstruct two timber groins that were installed in the 1970s, which jut out perpendicular from the existing bulkhead, and are very evident on the aerial photograph. My advisory report impressed upon the applicant the need for him to come forward with an analysis of the potential wetland and environmental impacts of groin replacement. In the event that the replacement bulkhead will be set 18 inches higher than the existing bulkhead, that leads me to further question whether or not the groins need to be reconstructed at this site. No information has been provided with regards to the present functionality of those groins, nor whether or not, notwithstanding the state policies in terms of general permits for bulkhead reconstruction, whether or not state approvals are needed for the groin replacement, and if so, whether or not those approvals have already been granted and or are likely to be granted. Notwithstanding the location of those two timber groins in state waters, this board does have the authority to regulate that groin reconstruction. So that is second reason why there will be a need to adjourn this public hearing tonight, so that the applicant can provide needed additional information and analysis regarding those groins. I would ask that the applicant forward the exhibits that are on the wall to our office to give me a better opportunity to look at the various graphs. It would seem, and perhaps I missed it, that some further clarity is yet needed with respect to the current vertical differential between mean high water and the present height of the existing bulkhead. So, you know, what I'm asking is, where is mean sea level or mean high water at what elevation relative to the elevation of the existing bulkhead? That information is, of course, important because the applicant is seeking this board's approval to increase the height of the existing bulkhead by 18 inches. If there is a significant vertical differential between the height of mean high water and the current height of the bulkhead, the need for heightening of the bulkhead may actually be less than what is being proposed tonight. So at this time, I would simply recommend that the hearing be adjourned to provide my office and the board sufficient opportunity to further review not only the applicant's testimony tonight, but also to look at the various referenced exhibits. That adjournment will also give the applicant the needed time to come forward with the requested analysis of the potential impacts of groin replacement. Thank you.
I don't know.
Approach the lectern? I'm the applicant.
Sure.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Marty, for that. Thank you, Aram. I'm going to bring it down to a very human level here.
Okay, could you first state your name and address,
Sure.
please?
Bruce Nierenberg, 67 Clearview Drive, Sag Harbor. So, and I know all you guys from shopping around town. I've lived in or on the Peconic and the Little Peconic for 35, 40 years. I'm watching the waves come over, and we're going to have a storm this weekend also. We applied for this 6 months ago. I keep hearing more time, more time, more time, analysis. I'm watching the water come over. It's not just this picture, and it's not just this hole that could fit a coffin, by the way. It's my neighbor over there, it's my other neighbor, and we're all willing to fix this thing, right? We just need a little higher. I don't see what the issue is here, I'm sorry. And I'm not a scientist, I'm somebody who's watching this wash away into that bag. So can we expedite this a little faster?
Did you want an answer to that?
No, I would like, you know, it's gonna take time to get scheduling, to get a contractor in there. This thing's gonna be over a year. This is all our problem, not just my problem, and all my neighbors' problem. This will fail one of these days. That's all I have to say. So please,
Just quickly speak to that.
please.
Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. In the interim, as we continue to review the pending application, if there's a need for the applicant to temporarily deposit fill between the, behind the portion of the bulkhead where some soil has been lost, or even to make temporary repairs to a section. You know, I'm happy to work with the applicant on that. As was alluded to, we're not only charged with ensuring that the proposed actions are necessary and will not result in adverse wetland impacts, but we also need to be sure that the reconstruction of the heightened bulkhead and groins will not adversely impact downdrift properties. My office will need to take a closer look at what effects the heightening of the bulkhead may have on deflection of wave energy, not only alongside the bulkhead face, but downward. Notwithstanding that the historic sand beaches disappeared, likely as a consequence of bulkhead construction many years ago, we still need to look at whether or not the deflection of wave energy will adversely impact the bay bottom contours as well. So, I understand, I hear the applicant's concerns, and my office is always interested in working with landowners to resolve any issues as quickly as possible. But this is, these applications that we just received, I believe this is the first time that this board has seen applications for bulkhead reconstruction that call for heightening of the bulkheads. It appears to me that all the other bulkhead replacement applications that this board has authorized and permitted over the years and even recently were for replacement in kind without heightening of the bulkhead, which I had supported and did not lead me to question some of the potential impacts. So because any decision that's made regarding this application will have a consequence not only with regards to the other 4 or so applications that are before us in this area, but for the remainder of the waterfront properties, we need to do our job, make sure we take a hard look at this so that we render the right decision. I did have an opportunity to meet with the trustees last Friday to discuss a host of issues, and one was the apparent policy that the applicant alluded to as far as the trustees favoring heightening replacement bulkheads. And the trustee had indicated that as there is a new board of trustees in town, that they're questioning the wisdom and necessity of heightening bulkheads, and will be taking a much harder look at whether or not that's the proper course of action when bulkheads are replaced. That's about the extent of my comments tonight. Again, I would impress upon the applicant that in the interim, as we review this application, if there is a need for some temporary remedial actions, such as backfilling any areas where soil has been lost behind the bulkhead face, I would certainly support that and can authorize those temporary remedial actions and repairs. Thank you.
Excuse me, am I allowed to ask a question?
Yeah, you just need to come to the podium and identify yourself, please.
Hi, my name is Deirdre Featherstone, and I'm married to Wilson Madden, and we live next door to Bruce. And first of all, thank you, Marty, for allowing us to backfill and do this. Every time we go to refill these things, it's a pretty exorbitant price tag. It's a significant amount. We've gotten quotes from our people, and it's between $20,000 and $25,000 every time they go to fill it. So we've gotten quotes from all of our landscapers and things like that. So it is one of those things. It's a significant expense, and there are a lot of things that are behind that, and none of us want to see all of it go into the bay. We all know that we've been trying to get a lot of runoff from the Noyak Road not to go into the bay, and all these other things. So if you could take a look at it, if you want to walk our property, if you want to all get in a car now, I'll drive you over. You're welcome. I meet you out there, and you're welcome to go and look and see what you can see, because I think we're all concerned about the environment. And we just don't want to see any more junk going into the bay if we don't have to. And I'm not an expert, and I'm not an engineer, but I know that the cost of keeping this full and keeping it stable right now is hitting all 6 of us pretty extensively. And I would say that if we could expedite the situation, we'll all be less out of pocket. And as long as it's not interfering with the environment, we would be most grateful. So thank you for considering that.
Thank you.
Aram, I have a couple of questions. The first is, you did not speak of the groins. Is that still in part of your plans?
All right, that's a hot button issue. So we will examine and provide that information that Marty requested, but on behalf of my client, I'm going to reserve all rights that the board does not have jurisdiction over that. The mean high water line of Peconic Bay is the limit of the town's jurisdiction, and the groins are located in New York State underwater lands. So this is a fine point of law that is currently being debated. So I think in the interest of advancing this application, we will provide the information requested, but we reserve our rights that the board does not have jurisdiction.
So what you're saying is the top of the groin stays below water all the time?
No, it's on land owned by so the face of this bulkhead is the horizontal location of mean high water. Mean high water is the boundary of this property and the boundary of the town of Southampton as defined in the Dongan Patent. Everything seaward of that is land underwater owned by New York State. So in lands underwater owned by New York State, the state has jurisdiction and the town does not have jurisdiction. They have jurisdiction over navigation law, which controls the speed of boats, proximity to the shoreline, mooring, but it does not give authority for structures that rest on the bottom. As I said, it's a fine point of law, and I'm sure Ms. Doyle will provide the board with her expertise, which is considerable.
She can hardly wait.
Can't wait.
But while I have the podium, I neglected to bring up a really important point, so thank you for asking a question. On December 31st, New York State issued a new directive in the New York State Residential Building Code. And what they said what they said in that code is, in order to account for sea level rise, as identified under Part 490 of the New York Code of Rules and Regulations, every new home that's constructed must be built 18 inches higher. So we're all familiar with FEMA. FEMA says you're at elevation, whatever it is, AE 10. Let's just use that as a number. Now, a number of years ago, New York State said, well, things are kind of uncertain, so we want to put in a factor of safety. We're going to call it freeboard. So if FEMA says 10, we say 12. We're going to add 2 feet to whatever FEMA says as a factor of safety. This year, they added 18 inches on top of that. So now it's 3.5 feet over FEMA. And why? Because they're following the guidance mandated by the state law, the Community Climate and Resiliency Act. So it's yet another reason why this makes a ton of sense.
Is that just waterfront property that?
Anything in a flood zone.
Okay,
And they also, if you're in a 500-year flood zone, you have to comply with the 500-year flood zone standard. It's a very sweeping new regulation.
That'd be an old house. Sorry.
do they consider these properties that are way up on a cliff like that?
No. Not the property itself. These would be for things that are actually in the floodplain.
Okay.
Yeah, so these are all in X zones because they're elevated, these are, I don't know, 20-plus feet up. But again, you see this underlying policy change directed by the New York State law, which says everything's got to go up 18 inches to account for sea level rise. And I apologize for making this in yellow because I'm sure nobody can see it except for me. So I'm going to draw a line.
You're right.
When I was sitting down, I looked up there and I said, I can't even see that line.
Oh, now I have 6 more questions.
I presume the bulkhead that you're proposing to replace this with will be a vinyl bulkhead?
Yes, that's correct.
And that corrugation is, what is that, 15 inches? 18?
Yeah, it's about 12 to 15, yeah.
And that gets pounded down.
Vibrated,
Does this one come out?
yes. That comes out in its entirety.
And then when that comes out, there's a risk of all that soil.
Well, when we do these jobs, first thing we do is we put a turbidity curtain around here, so to capture anything. And then it's only done in sections, so that you can complete a section in a day. So you don't open the whole thing up and then try to do it. It's all done in very controlled manner.
Do you have somebody that's going to do it already?
We don't know, there's no contract in place. But that's the standard approach on all bulkheads, especially in an exposed location like this. You want to be extra careful.
But still, there'll be just one section at a time that dissipates into the water.
Well, no, you wouldn't, that's why we would remove this material behind here and then remove the bulkhead.
Is that typical to have a second wall behind the bulkhead?
Yeah, you see them often. They're not usually that far away. Usually they're within, the old standard used to be within 18 inches horizontally. So you find multiple bulkheads.
So was that an old bulkhead, or was it put in there as part of this bulkhead?
That I don't have the answer to.
I do. That was built.
Wait, excuse me, you need to be in front of the mic. And please identify yourself and name and address, please.
I knew you'd get a chance to talk.
Wilson Madden, 23 Bittersweet Lane, next door, adjacent to Nierenberg. The map here is the trustee, it was the trust of the Rube Salmon estate. And Rube Salmon is the one who, his grandfather built the house that we're in 1910. And so the grandson is the one that I purchased this property in 1990-91, actually 3 weeks before Hurricane Bob hit. And you know what Hurricane Bob did to the waterfront. We had a tornado go through. But what they did in the family over the years, in the late 40s and early 50s, they did the busman's holiday. And they would, in the summer, they would bring a few barges over of cement, and they poured this cement wall. And it was shaped like this. back and then a little foot in the front. So that's why the foot is in front there. And so all of that was there when I bought the property. And actually, I ended up with Ted Rubsamen, who I bought it from, doing the whole bulkhead for all the three properties. So I'm very familiar with what was done and how it was done and why it was done. And it took us a year to get the permits, and we did everything accordingly at the time. So that's what it is.
Thank you. So, Aram, I assume that you would put new dead men in with a new vinyl bulkhead,
Yes.
and that wall's not gonna cause a problem?
No, we'll probably do the same anchoring right through the wall. Just drill through it.
Okay.
Actually, the wall's good. It's a nice anchor in and of
Yeah,
itself.
you could just heighten the
It's been-
concrete wall.
It's been protected.
Not all of it's there.
Now, I am curious about a calculation. And that calculation is, what is the differential in height between mean sea level when that bulkhead was built 33 years ago and the top of the bulkhead?
Wow, that's a tough one. Okay, run it at me again.
What's the height differential between the top of the bulkhead and the mean sea level when the bulkhead was built 33 years ago?
Isn't it 1/3 of the centuries?
Hang on. 32 years ago.
32 years ago.
Okay.
Might make a difference.
All right, roughly speaking, it's a third, but here's what I'm going to do. NOAA has a tide gauge at Montauk, and they have a linear plot of sea level for like the last 60 years. So I will go back and get you that number.
I'm curious how that compares with the top of your proposed bulkhead wall and the anticipated sea level rise at the end of that wall's lifespan.
Compare the top of the proposed seawall now and at the end of service life. Okay? It's not the same, it's the same idea, not the same information.
Would not the presence of a beach affect that equation?
No, because that's why we have synthetic zero. Takes all that out. Takes out all that interference, so you have a constant frame of reference.
What the beach can do is, it can influence, it can have an influence because in the process of sea level rise, there was probably significant erosion of the beach, which is why there's no beach there now. But in terms of the absolute levels, no, that shouldn't make any difference at all. But it could be inaccurate to extrapolate because there are anticipated, the rate of sea level rise is not linear. So there would have to be an adjustment there. I'm just curious if this 18 inches is a logical number or not, and see how it compares with that mathematical exercise. That is not conclusive, that exercise.
It's informative.
Information, yes.
Well, I would say 18 inches is a damn good number. That's my opinion.
It'd be helpful in my thinking to get some bearing as to where we are on this request.
Okay.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this application? how much time would you like?
I have a hand up
Mayor,
on
lose
Zoom.
them all.
Oh, somebody on Zoom.
Oh, somebody's on Zoom?
Yeah.
All right. Come on now.
Can you hear me and see me?
Yes.
I am Robert Ungaro. I'm the owner of 59 Clearview Drive. Earlier, someone asked if there were beaches there a while back, and when we moved into that property, when my mother purchased it, we had a 30 or 40-foot beach at high tide, and we now have no beach at high tide, and we used to have a dry bulkhead. That bulkhead was dry. You would go down to the water, and it almost never touched the base of the bulkhead unless there was a storm. Now we are having that water overtop that bulkhead on a regular basis. And I replaced that. We had it damaged because of this 5 years ago. And I had to replace that bulkhead only 5 years ago. And now we're coming into our third repair. This is an existential problem if you're on the water in this area. And as it is, those waves are coming over the top. And we submitted video at mid-tide on a moderate day, and you can see the water coming over the top of that. Everybody along this area is just trying to protect the property, and we're also trying to protect the bay, and that we don't need all this material going back into the waters. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I'm hoping that, my daughter, who will be a third-generation resident here, will be able to enjoy the property as well.
So for the board's edification, this is the video that Mr. Ungaro was referencing. As you can see, it's not an especially stormy day, and this is at mid-tide. And, although it's not coming over on a routine, on a continuous basis, I mean, even these little waves are splashing over the top.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Just quickly.
Okay.
Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. One of the items that would be beneficial for the applicant to look at is if indeed this board permits the proposed replacement heightened bulkhead, is there yet a need for groin replacement, and if so, why?
I have a question, Marty.
You have a question?
Yeah, I have a question to Marty. I have a question for you.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
All right.
You still have a microphone there.
Yes.
The gentleman that just was on Zoom said 30 years ago they had maybe 30 feet of beach, and now obviously they have nothing. And I was wondering, has the sea levels risen that high? That's the cause of that?
No, the Lost Beach was, likely largely due to storm impacts. When tide waters and waves hit that vertical wall, the wave energy is deflected downward, causing a scouring and loss of that beach during the storm events. If you trace historic aerial imagery, you'll see that once these bulkheads were installed along this land, and as was indicated, they were likely installed landward to meet high water. There was a rapid loss of that foreshore beach, and I would guess that it was largely due to the deflection of storm wave energy and tidal surges off the vertical bulkhead walls.
Just my own edification, and it's a hard question. Let's say you didn't have any bulkheads for the last 30 years. Would there still be beach, or would there be tremendous, I don't mean a little, I mean tremendous erosion of the cliffs?
Well, erosion is a natural process, and you can expect erosion along any bay beach. I would, it's hard to say. Obviously,
All right,
I was
okay.
not here to observe the trends along the shoreline, but my guess is that the installation of those vertical belt bulkheads greatly accelerated the loss of beach, and that the natural conditions of the Bay Beach would have been a lot better today if those vertical bulkheads were not installed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hine, great question. I'll answer it for you. Yeah.
Lesson number 46.
Going to keep it real short. Yeah, there would still be a beach, and there would be tremendous erosion. And I'll tell you why. Beaches respond to three variables all the time: sand supply, wave energy, and sea level rise. Of those three, sand supply is 90% of the equation. Go to Shinnecock Inlet. You stand on the west side of the inlet, and the ocean is ripping into the dune. You stand on the east side of the inlet, and the ocean is 700 to 1,000 feet farther seaward than it was when the jetties were built. Why? Sand supply. It's the same wave energy, and it's the same wave energy and the same sea level, but all the sand is being dammed up on one side of the inlet, and that beach grows, and the one on the other side erodes. Iconic beaches and bluffs are different than the ocean, but the principles still apply. These beaches derive their sand from erosion of the bluff. If you stop the erosion of the bluff, you cut off the sand supply. It's like when your kid's at college and they're spending too much money, got to cut off the sand supply. That's what happened here. People, in a desire to protect their property from what would be tremendous erosion, placed these bulkheads. The result of that, and which was, at the time it was done, that was the standard operating procedure. That cut off the sand supply, and that reduced the beaches. And the reduced beach allows bigger waves to get closer to the shoreline and to impact these structures. Is this ideal? No. But it is the situation, and it's the situation for 1,000 feet or more on this shoreline. I view my job as trying to find the best solution with the least impact that protects the property and the environment. And I think what we're proposing to you meets that standard.
We're getting back to my question. Is it only a one-way erosion? I mean, is it possible that the sand can drift along the shoreline?
Yeah, bluffs are one-way erosion, but that sand that's released will go down and form a spit of land. Can you zoom out, Karina, a little bit here? If you go up to like Jessup Neck, for example. Yeah, zoom way out, please. Yeah, keep going. Yeah, so we see Jessup Neck in the upper part of that photo. Just drag it down a little, please. All that sand in Jessup Neck eroded out of these bluffs. So when you get to the low-lying spits of land, all of that is deposited sand eroded out of the bluffs.
Not the other way?
Nope. And that's why it's got that long tail on it, because that's the direction of sand transport.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thanks,
Is there a motion to adjourn this to March 11th?
That's good with you, Aaron?
Yeah, well, tomorrow's good with me.
Second, or I'll make the motion.
Second.
Nobody has.
We have it moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all.
I want to thank the board, Marty and Kelly, for your time this evening.
Advisory reports for the planning board. North Edge Stables 2, LLC.
I'm all ready, Tom. I'm waiting for these two lollygags over here. Lollygaggers. I like your hat.
Marty, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. The North Edge Stables application is a special exception application before the planning board for a tract of land at 819 Lumber Lane in the hamlet of Bridgehampton. There are several recommended comments. The first indicates that based upon an Environment Division field assessment completed on January 16, 2026, the proposed landscaping details and specifications in the drawings are referenced here do not contain sufficient native flora, as the majority of the selected species have origins to Europe, Asia, or Japan. While a few of the chosen plant species, such as sweet bay magnolia and tulip tree, are indigenous to Long Island, acknowledging the property's location within the town's Aquifer Protection Overlay District, additional native plant species should be utilized. And second, to limit the carbon footprint of using a private carting company for pickup and transfer off-site of horse manure and other anticipated animal waste. Eco-friendly alternatives such as use of horse farm biodigester systems, which utilize anaerobic bacteria to recycle waste, should be explored, as such technology could reduce methane emissions, help to control offensive odors, will likely lessen rodent and insect problems, as well as potentially provide the facility with biogas, which may be used as a renewable energy source for cooking, electricity, and heating. And lastly, despite the planned subsurface drainage structures and stone roads, the proposed asphalt driveways and parking areas should also be built with permeable materials to the maximum extent practicable.
Motion to send those comments to the planning board.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 28 Bay Avenue West, LLC.
This is a pending two-lot residential subdivision for a property located on the south side of Bay Avenue West in the hamlet of Hampton Bays. The recommended comments are as follows. First, a January 22nd, 2026 Environment Division field assessment, together with review of town aerial imagery, has revealed that the rear southerly part of proposed Lot 1 was cleared of natural vegetation, inclusive of large native deciduous trees, just prior to filing of the subdivision application, with the trees felled between 2025 and 2026. The tree cutting and site disturbance has destroyed important wooded watershed land for the approximate Smith Creek and Shinnecock Bay, which have been designated by state and federal governments as significant coastal fish and wildlife habitat and as part of the state-acclaimed Long Island South Shore Estuary Reserve. The second advisory comment makes note that the affected area also lies within FEMA flood zone, AE elevation 8. The third comment notes that other environmental benefits such as thermal cooling, carbon sequestration, and air purification, as well as habitat for wildlife and songbirds, together with enhanced community character, have also been lost as a consequence of the unauthorized clearing and tree cutting. 4, the adverse impacts of the tree cutting need to be lessened by requiring that the applicant adhere to clearance standards limiting site disturbance and clearing of the existing woodlands on proposed Lot 2 to 60% of the lot area in a manner consistent with the requirements for the key watershed lands within the town's Aquifer Protection Overlay District as set forth in Section 330-67 of the Town Code, which is Protection of Natural Vegetation. 5, the comment asks that in order to compensate for the ecological damage already wrought, the applicant should also be required to put forward a drawing calling for planting of native trees in the rear of Lot 1 and roadside, or alternately be required to replant 40% of Lot 1 with native vegetation pursuant to an approved landscape plan. 6, it's indicated that at the time of the site visit, the landowner was advised to discontinue all tree cutting and clearing until a decision regarding any requisite woodland preservation or site reclamation is rendered by the planning board. And lastly, the needed further extension of the existing asphalt drive for the purpose of providing for vehicular access for proposed Lot 2 should be accomplished using pervious materials in order to maximize rainwater infiltration and minimize runoff.
Motion to send those comments to the planning board.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Administrative wetland permits are in your packets. Resolution to, we did that one. Resolution of conditional approval. A 019131, the Patricia Lynn Prue Revocable Trust, and the applicant request postponed until February 11th, 2026.
Motion to postpone to February 11th, 2026.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A 024077, Colin Heffron, any discussion?
Move to issue.
Second.
Resolved that a conditional wetland permit approval be granted to Colin Heffron for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor? Opposed? Mark Charbonneau and Donna Charbonneau, A025021, applicant request postponement until February 11th, 2026.
Motion postponed to February 11th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A 025035, Dana L. Cozzolino and others. Any discussion?
Move to issue.
Second.
Resolved that a conditional wetland permit approval be granted to Dana L. Cozzolino, 2022 Revocable Trust, 12122. Dana L. Cozzolino trustee, Maria A. Arquendo, 2022 Revocable Trust, A 12122, and that, I guess we can stop there. That just gives the term. Oh, and there's another one here. And Maria A. Aquendo, trustee for the proposed project on the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A 025037, Zach Goldberg and Amanda Goldberg. Any discussion?
Move to issue.
Second.
Resolved that a conditional wetland permit approval granted to Zach Goldberg and Amanda Goldberg for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions that set forth therein. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A 025052, Matt McDavid and Eve McDavid. Any discussion?
I had a question. The conditions to the 2005 permits, the report didn't say that they had all been met and were continuing to be complied with.
Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. Yes, the Conservation Board required covenanted wetland preservation area and naturally vegetated buffer was indeed established. However, these minor access and utility improvements that have been made to the property have occurred within minor portions of that previously required buffer. That's why the landowner is seeking a wetland permit to legalize those minor improvements, because there is minor relief that's needed from the requirements of the prior Conservation Board approval.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Gonna make a motion.
Move to issue.
Second.
Resolved that a conditional wetland permit were granted to Matt McDavid and Eve McDavid for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A 025063, Brushy Neck Lane LLC. Any discussion?
Second.
Resolved that a conditional wetland permit were granted to Brushy Neck Lane LLC for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Preliminary review seeking determination, A 02405425 Dune Road LLC.
Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. Preliminary review of this application had been postponed from the January 14, 2026 Conservation Board meeting in order to give board members sufficient opportunity to review this application. As indicated by my December 19, 2025 preliminary advisory report, which speaks to some detail with regards to the planned improvements. This is an application to redevelop oceanfront property where a cottage that stood for many years had been abandoned and is no longer habitable. The property contains dunelands and also a fringe of high marsh on the south side of Dune Road. That's the reason why a wetlands permit is needed in order to proceed with this redevelopment plan. As I had mentioned at the last meeting, my office and the planning division had spent a considerable amount of time completing a pre-application review to ensure that not only that the requirements of Chapter 325 are met, but that any relief needed from the coastal erosion hazard area law and the required coastal setbacks are minimized to the maximum extent practicable, with the exception of the needed driveway entry from Dune Road, which needs to cut through the fringe of high marsh along the road. This project is generally compliant in that the improvements in large part are being cited so that they are located at a conforming wetland construction setback of 100 feet. I have required that a covenanted 75-foot buffer be established to the maximum extent practicable, with the exception, of course, that drive needs to cut through that narrow fringe of wetlands and through that buffer area, as there is no other access to this property. That being said, the advisory report has indicated that there is sufficient information to make a determination on this application, and as such, the report recommends that the public hearing requirement be waived. Yes?
I just have a couple of questions. I went and looked at the property, and you do have that small fringe of wetlands, which then brings that under our jurisdiction. Of course, the road cuts a huge, amount of wetlands right across the road. So if we didn't have that fringe, we would have no way of protecting those other wetlands. Now, is this structure, this redevelopment, is that the same size as what is there now, or is that being enlarged?
No, the plans for redevelopment call for a much larger structure. The structure, of course, needs to be FEMA compliant, so it will be elevated as well. There are extensive utility and accessory improvements that are also planned.
Right now, you call it a cottage, the house is on stilts. And if you walk up, there is a deck that surrounds it, goes around it, and that's the first floor. Then my concern, and this may be I think is out of our jurisdiction, is as you go, I've seen that you've pushed it as close as you can towards the dunes and away from the wetlands. But now it's going right into the dunes, and the pool is on the level of where the parking area would be, underneath the house. And if you look, there's a pool there right now, and you can see all of the sand coming from the dune is just right on top of it. That area gets washed over all the time. Many times even during low tide, you can't get down there, and you can see the water that goes across the road into the bay area. So if you have a pool that low and it's right into the heel of the dune has been carved out to put that pool there. So I think that's out of our jurisdiction, but it was a concern of mine.
Yeah, the planned improvements on the oceanfront of the new residence are largely outside of our jurisdiction, but I know that the planning division, as part of their review of the coastal erosion management permit application, is asking that the pool foundation provide for a minimum 2-foot vertical separation between groundwater and the base of that pool, because the property is in both a VE zone and C would have the limit of moderate wave action. The residents will have to be elevated to considerable height, the consequences which is that in all likelihood the pool will be substantially elevated as well.
But it's still
I know
below
that
the first floor, and the water's my concern is that you're going to have storms. We've had water come over the dunes, we've had them wipe out the dunes in that area, that all that water in the pool is just going to be washed right into the wetlands in the bay.
Well, the pool, correct me if I'm wrong, but the pool would be on the opposite side or at a considerable setback from that tidal wetland fringe, and they will be required to use a saltwater filtration system, which will lessen the risk of chlorine toxicity. But, you know, the property is residentially zoned. I, of course, recognize the vulnerability of all of the land along the oceanfront in this area. The risk of overtopping of dunes is substantial. Tidal surge flooding coming across Dune Road. I mean, we all observe that all the time. So the the best we can try and do is maximize the setbacks and get the improvements elevated to the maximum extent practicable. And as was mentioned at the hearing tonight, the effective this year, the flood zone elevation requirements are even more stringent now. So the elevation of those structures on pilings, inclusive of the likely elevation of the pool on pilings, lessens the interference with natural flooding and drainage patterns, but of course it's not ideal.
No, and it's right at the
It's a
heel.
beautiful natural landscape. You know, I would have liked to seen the applicant come forward with a much smaller plan. The original plans that we looked at were even substantially larger than what we're looking at now. So we did have some success in scaling back the extent of planned redevelopment, but yeah, the project will have environmental impacts, and the concerns that you raised are real concerns. But, you know, that property is residentially zoned, and so the landowner does have the right to redevelop that property.
What is the setback required from the dunes?
I'm sorry.
Isn't there a coastal
Yeah, there
setback from
is.
dunes?
So there is a coastal erosion hazard area law that regulates all site disturbance and construction seaward of the state promulgated coastal erosion hazard area law. And then in addition to that, we have as part of our building and zoning code, we have a coastal erosion hazard adjacent area that requires for a redeveloped property a minimum setback of 100 feet from the dune crest, landward of the dune crest to for construction, lessen the potential for impacts to those critical natural resources. That being said, notwithstanding our efforts at trying to work with applicants to ensure that their projects are wholly compliant with the building and zoning code, many of the ocean front properties nonetheless seek variances from the zoning board, which serves as the Coastal Erosion Hazard Board of Appeals. So, you know, we do what we can to try and get these projects scaled back, but it's not always easy.
No, and it's not.
In the end, many of these projects are in the hands of the zoning board who, now when they go to the zoning board, we get, even if this board doesn't get an advisory referral, I get an advisory referral, and I use that opportunity to, again, do everything I can to better protect the resources and lessen the scale of development impact. So, you know, I hear your concerns, they're real.
Yeah, because it's not anywhere near 100 feet.
No,
It's
I mean,
right there at the base, at the heel.
I mean,
It almost looks as if the dune is just going to topple right over into the pool.
you know, and generally that's one of the reasons why preservation of dune land and oceanfront property is one of the highest priorities of our community preservation fund, and such office routinely sends letters out to oceanfront property owners to see if there are willing sellers who might want to approach the town and sell their property for preservation purposes. But if there's not, they're residentially zoned properties, so landowner has the right to redevelop.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Good try.
Well, if it came under 3:25, I would have kept going, but it doesn't. So I know when I've lost.
So is there a motion to waive the public hearing?
So moved.
I'll let somebody else do it.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll still let somebody else do it.
I'll second the motion.
Resolved that the Town Conservation Board hereby waives the public hearing requirement pursuant to Chapter 325, Section 325-80 of the Town Code. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A 024060, Carter Simpson and Sloan Simpson, the applicant requests postponement to February 11th, 2026.
So moved.
Motion will postpone to February 11, 2026.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A 025011, 41 Tarpon Road LLC.
This application, as indicated by my January 22nd, 2026 preliminary advisory report, relates to develop property with frontage on a bulkheaded canal in the private community of Shinnecock Shores. While perhaps modest new improvements are being proposed, based upon my review of the site history and my on-site meeting with the applicant. A lot of activities had occurred at this property under prior ownerships that were not compliant with the Historic Conservation Board approvals for this property. As this board well knows, for interior bulkheaded canals in Shinnecock Shores, the board's consistent policy has been to try and seek a minimum 40-foot setback for any construction activities, landward of the bulkhead, and to have those impacts mitigated by a minimum 15 feet wide naturally vegetated buffer landward of the bulkhead. However, that presents some challenges in light of some relief that was provided from those parameters historically by the Conservation Board, as well as a consequence of trustees' permits that allowed for construction of deck alongside the bulkhead. As it's an enormous challenge on this property to require the establishment of a wholly parallel 15 feet wide naturally vegetated buffer along the bulkhead, I have evaluated practicable alternatives. I provide two separate drawings to the applicant, which seek to establish an equal amount of naturally vegetated buffer land on the property as would be provided by a 15-foot buffer. As shown on the staff sketches, the establishment of the reconfigured buffers will necessitate removal of substantial hardscape and structural improvements, which the landowners understand and seem amenable to. It's not an ideal situation, but in the end, we would get mitigation that be largely equal to the mitigation that would be required if there wasn't a substantial trustee approved deck alongside the bulkhead. That being said, this is an application for which I've spent a considerable amount of time with the applicants. The buffers would be established by covenant. They do have to come back with revised surveys showing the needed improvements that have to be demolished and removed. And the buffers would be naturally vegetated as well. So this is an application for which we have sufficient information to make a determination. As such, recommending that the public hearing requirement be waived.
Clarification question? I'm not on the buffers. I understood the buffers and how you're going to create the 15 feet, but is none of the new construction going to be any closer to the bulkhead than the existing construction? I couldn't figure out whether or not the places where they're within 40 feet is going to get any worse.
Well, the restraints in this property, of course, are somewhat set by the improvements that were previously permitted by this board, but I describe the planned new improvements as minor because they constitute a rooftop deck over the southeasterly one-story portion of the house. They include construction of a new front entry porch, which is outside of this board's 50-foot wide wetland permitting jurisdiction. And they include very minor additions on the water side of the house that are both 4 square feet that are aligned with the seaward facade of the house. So the planned new improvements do not generally considerable concern. It's the unauthorized improvements that were completed at this property under a prior property ownerships that prevent the biggest challenges in with regards to trying to get this property to be more compliant with the wetland protection parameters that this board sets for Shinnecock Shores.
Well, I appreciate that, but I just wanted to understand it is going to encroach a little bit more, but it's minor.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes,
motion to
move
waive?
to waive the public hearing.
Second. Resolved that the Town Conservation Board hereby waives the public hearing requirement pursuant to Chapter 325, Section 325-80 of the Town Code. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A 025048, Diane Moranis, the applicant requests postponement to February 11th, 2026.
Move to postpone.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A 025054, Charlie Denby and Elspeth Belton.
This application relates to a residentially developed property outside of Old Country Road in the as indicated by the January 14, 2026 preliminary advisory report, the applicant is seeking a wetlands permit to undertake a host of accessory and hardscape improvements, including, among others, the construction of a swimming pool, a pool patio, a secondary patio, and other hardscape. This is a property that abuts town preserved land that takes in the headwaters for Weeser Creek and extensive freshwater wetlands consisting of a hardwood swamp that extended to this property a bit. The applicant came forward with a plan that sought relief from the minimum required 100-foot wetland construction setback and then sought considerable relief from the code required minimum 75-foot buffer setback. There is no reason why the required wetland setbacks cannot be met on this property, so I have asked that the applicant reconfigure and shift some of the new improvements so they're no closer than 100 feet from wetlands, and that the buffer be extended to 75 feet and be covenanted, and that the applicant come forward with a revegetation plan, which the applicant is amenable to. There's some minor hardscape that's being removed within that buffer zone, inclusive of a concrete plat and a plastic ornamental pond. But the applicant has agreed to revise their plans so they're wholly compliant with the wetland permit issuance standards set forth in Chapter 325. For that reason, I indicated in the advisory report that we have sufficient information to make a determination on this application. Accordingly, I'm recommending that the hearing requirement be waived.
Move to waive the public hearing requirement?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Well, let's see, I better read the resolution. Resolved that the Town Conservation Board hereby waives the public hearing requirement pursuant to Chapter 325, Section 325-8 of the Town Code. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A 025057 Jarvis Family Trust. Applicant requests postponement to February 11th, 2026.
Motion to postpone to February 11th, 2026.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution to issue wetland permit modification. CB 17043, Michael Federico and Rosa Federico.
This is the fourth wetland permit modification application that we have received for residentially developed bulkheaded property at 95 Inlet Road West in Shinnecock Hills, which is on Cold Spring Inlet. The prior approvals were not only conditioned upon the establishment of a significant naturally vegetated buffer, but upon removal of existing ornamental landscaping and restoration to native vegetative cover consistent with a previously approved landscape and native revegetation plan. The latest modification application has been filed because there's a need to relocate the proposed subsurface drainage. The Suffolk County Department of Health Services has asked for some changes in the location and the configuration of the proposed IA OWTS. As a result of those changes, the proposed utility lines need to be rerouted. There's also a need for two egress window wells, as the residence has a living area in the basement. Resolution before you again indicates that any approval of the latest wetland permit modifications would again be conditioned upon full restoration of the existing covenanted, naturally vegetated buffer on the property, and really is not significantly changing the building setbacks that have been previously authorized by this board.
Motion to issue the modification.
Resolved that a wetlands permit modification be issued to Michael Federico and Rosa Federico for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? CB 25055, Linda Corso and Clifford Dean Corso.
As indicated by the resolution before you, a modified wetland permit is being sought for minor changes to a permit that had been issued to allow for accessory improvements at the site, inclusive of building a swimming pool. The landowner has since opted to reduce the size of the swimming pool from 320 square feet to 260 square feet to go with a vinyl lined pool rather than a gunite pool, which would be elevated at least 2 feet above groundwater, as verified by test hole data. In light of the reduction in the pool footprint, they'd like to reuse that area as additional pool deck area. All this work is consistent with the wetland construction and buffer setbacks that were previously approved by this board. As such, this is a resolution to approve the requested modifications to the existing wetland permit so they can go forward with the changes to the project plan.
Motion to issue the modification.
Second.
Resolved that a wetlands permit modification be issued to Linda Corso and Clifford Dean Corso for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution to issue modified conditional approval, A 024015, Stephen Ryder and Dawn Ryder.
The modified conditional approval which is being sought is for bulkheaded property at Long Neck Boulevard in the hamlet of Flanders. Review of this application had been postponed from the January 14, 2026 meeting to tonight's meeting due to the board's request for additional information and some concerns that were expressed regarding this application, as essentially the permit that was issued for this board for improvements at the site was conditioned upon the establishment of a fully restored, naturally vegetated buffer along the bulkheaded canal frontage. As part of the reclamation of that buffer, the applicant was asked to remove existing perpendicular wire fence that extends down to the bulkhead. They were asked to remove a shed, which has since been taken away, but they were also asked to remove light posts and an unauthorized boat hoist or lift. While the applicant was initially amenable to those remedial actions as required by this board, they opted to go to the trustees, seek a permit which would override the board's request for those remedial actions within the covenanted buffer by taking jurisdiction and permitting legalization of that perpendicular wire fence extending down to the bulkhead, conditioned upon putting a gate to allow for a public pass and repass. But the trustees also sought to issue a permit to legalize the existing lighting, which is of much concern to me in the backwaters of this canal, as the exterior outdoor lighting has adverse impacts on wildlife, such as the black-crowned night heron, who has special eye vision that's evolved to adapt to hunting in the dark. They are blinded by outdoor lighting, which prevents prevents the ability to hunt and forage in this section of the backwaters. As there is an ability to pull a boat up to the bulkhead, I also did not see a need for a boat hoist or lift, which was installed without permits. But so this is a modified conditional approval that's being sought to, consistent with the trustees' permit, to request remedial request relief from those remedial actions within the bounds of the buffer. We had, Karina had immediately after the last Conservation Board meeting, emailed a copy of the trustees' permit to board members, so you would have the ability to consider that application in rendering a decision on this modified conditional approval. This is a challenging application in that, as this board well knows, there is a section of the code that says that where a trustee's permit is required, you can require a town wetland permit. So it puts the board in an awkward position as far as now trying to override activities that the trustees have legalized within the bounds of their permitting authority.
So you're recommending that we resolve to modify the permit?
Yes, yes, I don't see
So
that
moved
there are
to
any other
modify
options.
the permit as requested.
Second.
Be it resolved that a modified conditional approval be granted to Stephen Ryder and Dawn Ryder for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all.